All right, let's do this. Depression in 4K. In this episode, I would like to call A Perfect Storm. We're going to be talking about basically me and all of the different things that have been happening, I guess, recently that have created this perfect storm of making me want to create change in my life. In the next episode, I guess, I've called Finding Happiness. I'll be talking about the different changes I've been making and will continue to make to essentially find happiness. So with, I guess, a perfect storm type situation where essentially so many different things go wrong, or maybe not wrong, but sideways all at the same time, create this storm of, I guess, depression, and puts you into that mode of thinking, do I keep going, or do I change what I'm doing, or do I just stop everything entirely? As you might have been able to tell from my last video, I was in a pretty bad state, and I am definitely pushing on from then and making changes for the better of my own life, as well as to complete my journey in finding happiness. When I say complete the journey, I mean more like completing the initial journey, because finding happiness is not something that I think is ever fully achievable. It's more like you just push yourself towards finding happiness, and then whatever you find along the way is what builds up these good and or bad situations. These are pretty, weird topics to sort of cover, and but that's what we're doing here. So ultimately, I've got 6 different points that I think have created this perfect storm in my own life. And it's sort of what I want to document here and talk about. Now, you might realize that I'm recording this on a totally different camera, different microphone. Everything's different. And that's part of the next episode, where I talk about making changes to become a better person and become happier. So to start off with, the first one, and the one that I mentioned in my last video, is the content creation feeding the beast attitude that you have to have. Now, it's not really an attitude that you have to have, but as I've been able to prove now, if you stop making YouTube videos, your channel will suffer. It almost guaranteed will drop. You'll have an initial drop in views of videos because you're not putting out as much content. And then as you slowly stop making more and more videos, less and less people are recommended to your channel because it's considered less active. Now, I guess on this topic, it's kind of like whatever, because as far as like all of the different things that I do to have fun and or make money, as far as money goes, YouTube makes nothing. Considering the amount of time that it takes to put together a video and come up with an idea and do all of the things, the money you make, it hardly pays a phone bill for a month. If that, like sometimes not even close. And it doesn't matter how many subscribers you have, it's all based on how many people watch the ads in your videos and what those ads are worth. It's kind of like you're basically just pissing into a waterfall as far as content creation goes, because there's so much to compete with, and basically also to compare yourself with. But to be honest, I don't really compare myself with anyone. I guess I'm kind of like, very forward in the way that I progress with the different things in my life. I don't compare myself to anyone or anything really. I don't care that when I see someone's doing great, it doesn't really hurt me. I'm like, oh, that's cool, they're doing great. That's basically me. But there are other things that I'll discuss later that do affect me. The most important of those things is absolutely the need to continuously make content and to try and reply to every message that comes through. And I know it's such a, I'm just bitching about people sending me messages all the time and asking for help and stuff like that, especially after I've invited it. But yeah, it does sometimes get a little bit too much. And that's the main reason for wanting to change the content on this channel. It just feels dry. I'm not really happy with the content that I was creating as far as cybersecurity goes. And there's just better stuff out there that I think you guys should probably watch instead of my cybersecurity content, the new stuff anyway. So that's item number 1. It's like this pressure to continuously make content and if you don't do it, you will fail, and that sucks. I mean, it's how it works, but I mean, it sucks. It still sucks. Next up on the list, and this is probably the biggest one out of all of these, and that is travel restrictions. So Australia is now sort of out of, I guess, its quarantine lockdowns, where we're not stuck here entirely. However, I am still kind of stuck here. So my partner is applying for a permanent residency visa here, and a condition of that visa is that she is not allowed to leave Australia. Now, that sucks because all of her family and most of her friends are either in China or have just gone back to China. So we can't leave this country because we have to wait for the Australian government to process visas, and it takes a very, very long time. We've been waiting for 7.5 months now, and that's like a drop in the ocean of how long it takes to tick a box on a visa form. And I'm sure there's more to it than that. If there's anyone here in immigration who's watching, I love your work and you do great, etc. But hurry the fuck up. It's like the slowest process I've ever experienced in my life, and it's destructive and depressing. And if you guys could just do your job properly and not take 3 lunch breaks and tea breaks a day, that'd be fantastic. Just get your damn job done. It's not that hard. It's like glorified admin shit. But anyway, I won't discount your work because that's what you do to get money. The next one and the most recent item on this list is a death in the family. As some of you probably already know, my grandfather passed away last weekend, and tomorrow I'm going to be attending his funeral. That in itself is upsetting, but the hardest part is showing support and I guess helping out with all of the funeral preparations and stuff for my own family to help them get through it as well, because the world doesn't sort of revolve around me. Everyone else has their problems, of course, and this is one of those things that affects a lot of different people. So you kind of just got to, put your head down and do it, really. As shitty as it is, and with all the other pressures of life around you, it's you just got to get it done. So that's basically what I'm doing here is trying to, I guess, support my dad, especially because it's his father who passed away, and to try and get as much help for them as I can. So, and this sort of brings me on to the next item, which is family pressures. My family doesn't put a lot of pressure on me, but more recently they have, especially with weddings and all of that sort of stuff happening. And the follow-up after weddings, which is when are you going to have a kid? And that for me is not a huge pressure, but it definitely is for my partner, as well as the expectations her family has on her that creates pressure for her to, to continue the cycle of life as it is. And that's a pressure. And I think the biggest pressure for me, though, is that I have had a plan for years now, 3 or 4 years, to go back to China and live there for a while. And as my parents get older, they don't like the idea of, I guess, me being away from the family. And that's a pressure for me, because I want to live my own life. And as part of that, I want to go back to China. It's something I've wanted to do for a long time. And being asked to essentially not do that is, it's kind of not fair to have that expectation of, no, you can't do this because, that will hurt my feelings. And I'm like, well, what about my life? So it's hard, but I mean, that's basically just how it is. The second last item on this list is my interest in work. And this kind of relates to the whole cybersecurity YouTube channel thing. And without taking myself away from my job, which is honestly the main source of my income, the only other option I have is to change my YouTube content. Because when you work, 5 days a week, maybe more, sometimes I work 7 days a week, and you're doing cybersecurity or IT as a job, and then you come home and you're being asked by different people in different time zones, basically 24 hours a day, to make videos on this or whatever it is. It just gets way too much, and there's a point where your hobby becomes a job and it just doesn't become fun anymore. So I had a choice to basically end my job, which would be financially devastating for me, or to create different content on my YouTube channel, which is obviously the option I went with. I do have plans to change up my job eventually, but I'm not at the point where I can do that yet, because that business hasn't entirely grown itself to the point where it's actually making me money, which I'll talk about in another episode maybe. Different income streams and stuff like that. But yeah, it's kind of not easy to work in an industry for 15 plus years of your life. I think I've been working in IT now as an industry for around 17 years, and yeah, it's just really not that fun after a while. You do the same thing over and over, and you help the same people, and then you come home and you help more people do the exact same jobs, and it just gets a bit much. So I think if I can just focus on my job as a job and then have YouTube as a hobby doing something different, I think that's a better balance for me. And a lot of these things are really based on balance. The last item on this list, and probably one of the heavier items here, is relationship pressure. Now, all of these different items that I've talked about create pressure in a relationship, especially with expectations from family, deaths in a family, hating what you do at work and then coming home and hating it even more because you just keep doing it. Not being able to travel or do anything, it creates a lot of friction in a relationship and potentially pain, where things just don't seem right or fun anymore. There's no real excitement to be found. And it's really hard. And like, you only hear me bitching about it because I'm the only one out of me and my partner who have a YouTube channel. But I can tell you right now, it's really not easy to live with. I mean, like, all of these restrictions and stuff on your life that you can't really progress with, and it's hard. And I know this whole episode is just me bitching about life, basically, but I wanted to make this video to essentially get the point out of these are the things that are going wrong, and then focus on what I'm going to be doing to change those things, so that if you do find yourself in a similar situation, you want to find a potential way out that helps you, then maybe this is something you can do. And a lot of the focus that I'm going to be talking about here is about balance in life between your work and your life, and not to basically don't do what I do, which is to focus almost entirely on work as your life, because it's draining and it does catch up with you eventually. Trust me, it will catch up with you, and it's not fun when it does. So this is essentially the perfect storm that has been created recently that has forced me to make these changes, and for the better. I mean, I've done a lot of the items on my task list that I put up for myself to get through, to be able to find some form of happiness or something different in life, and create that balance that I was talking about before, where things are more fun and there is excitement again to be found. And it's so refreshing. Honestly, the changes that I've made so far have just been so refreshing and good, and there's so much positivity to be found in those changes that I think it's absolutely worth talking about. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you are into this sort of content, and throw me a comment down below if you have any recommendations or questions, or just want to have a chat. I'll read through them at my leisure at some point. But yeah, I hope to see you on the next video, where we take this into a slightly more positive swing with the changes that I'm making, and how I'm going about them, and why I think it could be a potential lifesaver or maybe relationship saver for your mental health or your mental well-being. Massive disclaimer, I am absolutely not a mental health specialist. I know nothing about mental health. I just know that different things have affected me personally, and this is what I'm doing to change it in my life. And if that works for you, fantastic. If it doesn't, that's perfectly fine. We're all different people. And yeah, anyway guys, catch you later.